Hey everybody, welcome to a presentation of This Fat Girl Life. I am the host, Kimberly, and this is actually going to be streamed not only to this Fat Girl Life podcast, but also to the Rope of Hope and over to my personal page. Reason for that is this is a very special bonus episode. As a lot of you know, I kind of talked about this yesterday. I am approaching 7 years of recovery. And to celebrate that, I want to bring on guests who have also gone through the battle and the hell that is addiction and have won that war. And that's what recovery is. It's winning a war. So today I have JD with me. He is in recovery as well. And he's going to share his story. He's going to share his story of that battle and the story of winning. So, JD, thank you so much for coming on my show. I really appreciate you having you here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's always good to, talk about all my worst times and people feel better about theirs.
And that seems to be like a common thread, as recovered addicts, recovered alcoholics, anybody who's in recovery. You can look back on some of those times, which sometimes you can laugh about the stupid things you did.
Yeah.
And you have to find some sort of comic relief in some of it.
I actually do stand-up comedy. Yeah, I've done stand-up comedy. So it's funny for me to find the funny in it now. And it's true, though, the further you get away from something, the funnier it can be, whether the worst thing in your life. It's like looking back, I equate, my time in addiction to a bad relationship. It was my first love. It was the first love of my life. And I wanted to do everything for it. It was my love. It's who I wanted to be with. It's who I want to be around every day. It comforted me and it took care of me and it gave me purpose like a relationship would. And that was why the first thing I did in rehab was write a breakup letter. I had a breakup song, and everything for my drug of choice, which was oxycodone 30 milligrams. That was my love. I'm an alcoholic, but that was my love. I took off from there. And I'll get to that. But yeah, I mean, I'm just glad to be here and not, somewhere else, because now they're putting fentanyl on my favorite pills and I would have been dead by now.
Well, before we go into your story, why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm born and raised in South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia. And, pretty average, normal life. My parents are still together. They've been together. I'm 35 years. My parents have been together. And, grew up, I have a younger brother and sister, played sports, had fun, and, never, it's what your typical American dream is, that's how I grew up. I was very fortunate. However, I was the oldest and I was rambunctious. I was curious and I was very independent and I wanted to do my own thing. I don't think I was home from 12 years old on. I was out with my friends. I wanted to be out and doing stuff. I was never home. I was either at sports or I was causing trouble with my friends. We would, I started drinking at 11, and it was not because it was a bad thing. We were watching The Outsiders and we wanted to be like the greasers. And so we stole Captain Morgan from the basement and made some Captain and Cokes, and we thought we were cool. The only problem with that was, besides an 11-year-old drinking, is when I was 12, the first person I knew died. And so he hit by a car. It was a freak accident. And so I was upset and I didn't know how to handle that at 12 years old. So my learned behavior from 11 was to, when you drink, you lose that feeling. Mm-hmm. So at 12, when that happened, the only thing I could think to do was get drunk about it. So it was a learned behavior at a young age to, when you're upset, you get drunk and it takes it away. And that turned in, I was a big partier. I was always at the parties having fun. I don't think I missed a party in high school. I was that guy. And by the time I was 21, we were at the bar every night. And then I turned 22 and alcohol stopped working because I didn't want to go out anymore. It was too expensive. It's too expensive. That's hilarious. Because then I got into pills. Then I was introduced to, I was talking to somebody who goes, oh, yeah, you're not feeling well. I got bananas. That's what we called Perk 10s. because they, yellow, and he goes, I got
Mm-hmm.
bananas, and I was like, all right, I don't really mess with them too much, but yeah, I'll take two. But for some reason that night in October 2008, I was off. Like, that was it. I'd never been that high in my life. Still to this day, I don't think. I probably have, but not that feeling of it. That feeling of acceptance, that feeling of warmth, that feeling of like, I need this every single day. And I will do anything to get this. Because the next day, I'm like, I want two more of them. And next thing you know, I'm hearing people are sniffing them. I'm like, they're really big, and I'm finding out they're filled with Tylenol and stuff like that. And my dealer is like, well, that's why I got 30s. What's that? It's a little small blue pill, and you can crush it up and sniff it. There's no filling or Tylenol, and it won't give you a headache. Like, all right. And he goes, then it's $20 for 30. So you're really getting 30 milligrams for $10 cheaper at this time, 2008. And so, yeah, I was off. That was what I wanted. That's who I needed. And I didn't care about relationships or anything else. I just wanted to do them every day to make me feel better.
So I am so sorry about that. At one point, because we all have this point, it doesn't change what we're doing. But at what point did you realize
I was an
this
addict.
was addiction?
2 months. Not even. A month, maybe. I talk to a lot of people. I run a mental health facility, a mental health meeting center, and I'll get to that. But I talk to a lot of people, like my sponsee right now, and he used meth for 15 years. And he told me that he realized he was an addict about 10 years in. It was a month for me. I knew it, and and in my head, I'm like, well, you're in control of this. Don't do heroin. If you do heroin, you're going to lose control. You're functioning, you're going to work, you're paying bills. And, I wasn't doing too many shady things at the time, but then eventually I got in a deal and it would fund my habit because my habit got more expensive. And, it was next thing you know, it's a $300 a day habit, easy. And, but anyway, yeah, it was about a month in and I had that realization. I was like, you need this every day now. And this is what your life's going to be. And you just need this every day. And as long as you just do this, then that will be fine. That's why I ran for so long. My run, as they call it, was a 10-year run because I was so convinced that I had it under control the entire time. Meanwhile, I'm getting arrested. I'm losing friends. I'm physically sick every single morning. And just, I'm not a good person. I'm not there for anybody. I'm only there for pills and only there for people who can give me pills.
And it's amazing how when we're in that addiction, we think we have control over it.
Oh, my ego was huge.
I think every addict has that.
Yeah, I just don't like to speak for anybody if I can help it. But yeah, my ego was huge. It was through the roof. I had this under control. I go to work every day. Look, I'm living in a house. I'm not homeless. I have a car. Even though I was paying for gas with like the company gas card, buying cigarettes with the company gas card. You know what I mean? Like, so I could afford extra $7 to go towards pills each day, instead of cigarettes. It's the insanity that comes with the addiction, especially when you're convincing yourself. I mean, I was my own therapist and my own pharmacist. I wasn't qualified to be either. I went to school for business for 1.5 years, not either of those. And yet I was acting as if I was both and I was killing it. During my addiction, I started dating my childhood best friend. She was an alcoholic, and we were enabling each other. She was bipolar schizophrenic also, which occurred when she was 19. She had an incident, and it turned on. The switch turned on. That's what happens with bipolar. You're born with it, and then a traumatic event happens, and then the switch turns on and then breaks, and it never turns off again. So that's what happened, and we started dating, and we were just enabling each other, and she would let me use, I would let her drink. I would try to control her drinking, but she's an alcoholic. You drink until it's gone, until you're asleep. She had voices in her head, and she had to drink till the voices went away. And, and then she ended up taking her life, July 13th, 2015. And I blame myself. Unfortunately, I was also being blamed by other people, close to her for not saving her, not stopping her. I don't know. I wasn't even with her. I wasn't with her when it happened. I hadn't seen her for 3 days or talked to her in 3 days. I knew something was wrong when it happened because I heard her favorite song 3 different times at 4 o'clock in the morning within a half an hour on like 3 different platforms. Like I randomly it was on like Family Guy, REM Lose My Religion was her favorite song.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on like a Family Guy episode. And then like it was on like on the radio or like on Pandora. But a half an hour, I heard it 3 different times and I was thinking of her and I shot her a text that she never replied to, and I found out at 4 p.m. why, when her mom called me. And, I was devastated. I blamed myself and others blamed me too for not being able, I guess, to stop her. I don't know. Either way, it's not for me to live with. Is eventually what I learned. But me then was like, I need to get into drinking again. And I had just moved again. And I'm
so sorry.
No, you're fine. So when that happened, I was in the middle of moving to North Carolina for work from New Jersey. I moved around in my addiction. I moved 30 times in 15 years.
Oh my gosh.
And 5 different states. I kept running from my addiction, but the problem was I kept going with me. So it didn't matter where I was going. So when I went down there, I'm like, okay, I'm away from pills. And then she died 3 days later. Literally, I left on July 10th, and July 13th, I got the phone call. And so it was easy to blame myself. I couldn't get pills down there because I was new to the area. So I went right back to my teenage years and started going to the bar every day. Occasionally, I could get like a shipment sent to me with, some bulk in there, or, I was finding coke. And I was never even an upper person, but I was just doing anything to numb my body at that time. And it's, I can't even describe how the feelings of, I can't describe it because I was numbing it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Every time I felt bad, it was like, well, go to the bar. Oh, let's do a line. That will make it better. So that was like almost the insanity of that. It took me, I was arrested a few times. I got arrested in 2013 or 14 it was, maybe. I forget, honestly. The years all jumbled together like back then. But I was really high on Xanax. I love Xanax. And the only problem is you black out with Xanax. At least I did every single time. And I loved it. And the one time I blacked out, I guess I stole a lot of jewelry from the person's house I was house sitting for. And I took all that jewelry to the closest pawn shop possible. That's how I know I was blacked out, because JD sober never would have did a criminal thing that close. I never would have went to the closest pawn shop. I would have went to the furthest away pawn shop.
Right? Like 5 minutes off.
Yeah, never right next door in the closest one. That's the first one they went to. And of course they pull my ID and I get arrested right away. But they put me on probation. And guess what happens on my probation? I can't smoke weed, but I can still use my prescription medication that I'm prescribed by a doctor of oxycodone 30s and 2 milligrams Xanax. So even if I was pissing hot, I'm sorry. But even if I was peeing hot,
fine.
Okay. But even if I was peeing hot, peeing hot means that you're, coming up positive. Peeing hot for Xanax and perks, they knew that because I had a script for it. So that just enabled my addiction for another year of probation, and I just didn't smoke weed. And then I got arrested again in 2018, and I had just left my dealer's house, and I know I was like not being set up, but like the cop was watching me. I didn't even know it. I was so high at that time. And I wasn't high at that. I was withdrawing when I was going there. I was driving an hour and a half to 2 hours through Philly traffic 4 times a week to get pills and then back again. So about 3 to 4 hours round trip, not even including the days that I sat in a McDonald's parking lot for 6 hours waiting to see a guy, just waiting and waiting and waiting. So sometimes it'll be like an 8-hour trip just to get my pills and then go back home again. And one of those times I got into town, I went to my guy's house, and usually he lets me do them right away because he knows I've been driving and I'm withdrawing, and he would usually let me do them off his counter. And I picked up 20. Like usually I was buying bulk because I don't live around there. That's how I would do it. So I was buying 20. I was like, hey, can I knock out 2 right here before I head out? Because like I'm hurting. And he was like, nah, you got to get out of here. Go. And I was like, all right, dude, see you. Like, whatever. And I got in my car. I was like, all right, I'll just go to my friend's house. I didn't have any straws on me. Usually I have like a stack of McDonald's straws because like they would fit, the pills would fit perfectly in the straw. and then you could bend it and chew it and then sniff from the straw while you were
Mm-hmm.
driving. I was out of straws, so I just had to just toughen it up until I got there. So I was on my way to my friends around the corner, and I didn't even see the cop behind me. I was on the phone talking to somebody and not even paying attention. Next thing you know, he lit me up. No, he turned his lights on. Inside of a school zone. He waited for me to be inside of a school zone. Then he was searching my car, and my pills were in my hoodie. Like I had like my sleeves rolled up on my hoodie, you know, and I had them stuffed inside the whatchamacallit of my hoodie, like, you know, the wrist part that I had rolled up. They kind of put the baggie in there. And when they were cuffing me, my sleeve kind of fell, and they grabbed my sleeve to catch it, and that's when they caught the pills. Before that, all they found was an eighth of weed in my, you know, center console. And I was just like, all right, well, yeah, I got weed. And then they found that. And that's like, oh, this is what we were looking for. We got it. So they took me in for attempt to distribute. You know, they hit me with the school zone and all that stuff too, because they're going to pile as much as they can on you.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't care. I went. I was like, all right, just get me out of here. I got out of there. I went and did stand up that night. You know, it didn't faze me because I didn't care. I just needed. I literally left there and went back to that same dealer's house and bought more. Knowing that the cops are doing paperwork right now. They're not there watching him. They're doing paperwork. So I went back there and I bought more because that's the insanity, and I was hurting and I needed it. So I sat and did all my paperwork with them and, you know, bailed out and everything while I was withdrawing. So, yeah, I went back and got more. It didn't stop me. I had pre-trial 2 weeks later. High as a kite during pre-trial. Sweating bullets, I'm sure. I probably looked awful in there. Like, I'm surprised they didn't throw me in jail straight from pre-trial, just from how awful I looked. It wasn't until April 20th, 2018, which was about 3 or 4 weeks after that happened. And it had nothing to do with it. I was high on my couch watching this documentary called Legend of 420. It was on Netflix, and it had different segments about different things. Like there was like one kid from like Oklahoma that had bad seizures, and he moved to Colorado, and his life was saved because he was able to use medical cannabis. And he was 11 years old, never able to even talk words because of how bad his seizures were. And within 2 weeks of using the spray in his nose, he was able to actually talk. His parents heard him talk for the first time in 12 years because of moving to Colorado instead of being in Oklahoma. So like that was one of the segments. And then one of the segments was on a place called High Sobriety. And it is a sober living in California that teaches you how to use cannabis as a medicine instead of a drug. And for the first time in 10 years, after everyone had begged me to go to rehabs, I went, that's something I would do. Like, that sounds interesting. But I didn't act on it. The next day, my dog and I, she would take my drives with me. And it was kind of because when she was with me, I wouldn't commit suicide. There were many times that I wanted to, like, take my car into a tree and make it look like an accident when it would be raining or snowing. And every time I didn't do it is because I was always thinking of my dog at home by herself and how long would she be there by herself. And that always saved my life. So then I started bringing her with me in the car, knowing I wouldn't be dumb if she was in the car because I would never want to hurt her. So she came with me on this Saturday, and we drove the 2 hours to Jersey, and then we sat in the McDonald's parking lot for about 8 hours this day. 2 different people kept saying they're on their way, never came. Finally, I got somebody to buy them for me, and then I had to like pay him. I ended up getting only 3 of them and doing 2 right away, and then having 1 left. And I'm on the PA Turnpike driving back at like 10 o'clock at night going like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You just spent a total of maybe 12 hours today for 1 pill basically in your hand that you're going to wake up with tomorrow so you won't withdraw. Like, what are you doing? And so that's when I Googled the number High Sobriety, 10 o'clock at night, and the guy answered. You know, on a Saturday night, he answered in LA, 7 p.m. He talked to me for about 2 hours. And 3 days later, I got on a plane to LA and saved my life. Like, because I did treatment first for 29 days where there's no cannabis. It's straight treatment that everybody goes to, detox. I refused all the Suboxone because it was my first time in rehab. and I didn't want to be comfortable. I figured if I'm comfortable, I'll be okay with coming back. So I just wanted to have supervision in case like I had a seizure. I'm coming off Xanax, alcohol, perks. And I think I had a seizure when I got arrested in 2013. I'm pretty sure I had a seizure when I was withdrawing. My parents were like, you don't want to go to rehab, then you're going to sweat it out in the basement. And I said, okay, fine. I'd rather be in the basement. And then it was a concrete floor basement. And at one point I woke up like it was nighttime as opposed to being morning. And I was on the floor, and I'm pretty sure I might have had a seizure and fallen off the bed and might have hit my head. I have no idea, but either way, I was like, I want to be under care. So at least they'll watch over me while I'm withdrawing. And I just didn't want Suboxone because then I'm going to be hooked on them. Like there was a girl in my rehab that was there for Suboxone because she was there a year ago for heroin. You know what I mean? And now she had to go back just to get off her medication, not even because she was addicted to it. Like she wasn't like mentally addicted to it. She was physically addicted to it. So she had to go back to rehab to get under care in order to detox off her subs. So I was like, yeah, I don't want Suboxone. The only medicine I let them give me was my blood pressure medicine because it was skyrocketed because of being a drug addict and being overweight, and gabapentin because my restless legs were just so uncontrollable. So I was taking like 1,200 milligrams of GABA a day in the beginning. And then I got down to taking it as a PRN and only taking it as needed, whenever like nighttime with like melatonin. But yeah, I loved rehab. I'm one of those guys. Like right away I got there and I was like still high, when you want to get to rehab and you're still high. So I got the rehab and I was still high, luckily, and not even high, but like I wasn't withdrawing yet. And they were doing a group outside. It's Los Angeles. It's beautiful outside. It's the middle of the day, and they were doing one of their IOP groups that we would do, inside the treatment center outside. And I was having a cigarette, and I was kind of like sitting in on it, like listening. And then I turned my chair to actually sit in on it because I liked what they were talking about. I was like, oh my God, that's me. I relate to that. Like, and I was relating in right away. And I think it's because I wanted to go that, I took to it and I was excited about it because I was the one that was like doing the initiative of sending myself there. If anybody else was like, you have to go and I need to be there, it's not going to work. Like needs and wants in sobriety, I talk about all the time. Like, for example, like I run a mental health meeting center now and we don't sign core cards because I want you there because you want to be there, not because you need to be there. And it's those words are so important to me. Like we need air to breathe. We need air. We need soda. We need water. I mean, soda. We need water. We need air. We need food. But like to get sobriety, we have to want it, not need it.
Yep.
Needing it is always for somebody else. Needing it is for the parents, for the cops, for the wife, the husband, the kids. That's never you. It's always for somebody else. But when you want it as bad as you want your drugs, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Like I'm gonna jump around, but to the point where when I came home and I was sober, I found an AA meeting an hour from my house so that I would have to drive twice a week an hour to get sobriety, just like I would drive that far to get high. It was like almost penance to myself to like, earn that sobriety like I was earning those pills, So I think a lot of that has to do with my mindset and like punishing myself. Like, you should really have some kind of punishment for all the times you were driving to get high. How about you drive to get sober now?
I think, when we hit that point of recovery, we go through, especially at the beginning of our recovery, we go through that point where we do put, there is that rationalization of punishing ourselves for what we, the hurts that we've caused others, the hurts that we caused ourselves. And so we feel like we have to punish ourselves. We deserve to be punished.
I talked to a guy yesterday who is recovering from sex addiction, and when his wife kicked him out, he slept on a mattress on the floor in a basement for 6 months. And he was like, because I deserved it. I was like, you could have had more? He was like, yeah, but I kind of, and I was like, was that like your penance? He was a Christian. Was that your penance? He said, yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was penance. It was to remind me of what I did and where I would end up again. And I said, I love that, because I kind of did the same thing. I think we all kind of punish ourselves, like you just said. So it's funny that you say that, because I totally agree.
And I see it through a lot of my friends who have gone through addiction and recovery, through, people that I went to rehab with, that, we all kind of go through that. And I think now that, I'm going to use myself as an example, I'm almost 7 years into my recovery. And I look back on that now and it's like, I punished myself plenty while I was using. I really didn't have to punish myself after the fact. The damage was already done. The punishment was already there. But I don't think we realize that when we first go into recovery, of how much we've already suffered.
I don't think we know really anything. You know what I mean? Like I always say, like, did you go through the 12 steps?
No.
Okay, I did. And I was really into AA in California. But I loved it out there. And then I got home, and they're more conservative in PA, and they weren't really a fan of me talking about cannabis in a positive way. So they asked me to, stop talking about it or stop coming. So I stopped coming because, like, you're not going to shut me up, honestly. Like, I'm too honest in my recovery to just not skip over things, so, and I wasn't promoting it. I was just talking about myself. But either way, that's why, like, my wife is sober also now. She quit drinking 2/29. She has an awesome sober date. 2/29. She has a leap day sober date.
Oh, wow.
So that was right before COVID hit. And I miss meetings so much. And I love going to meetings. And I never would have thought I said that, but I love the community. I love talking to other people like me and relating to them, making them feel better, like telling them all the worst shit I did so they can feel better about theirs, And I loved it. And I missed having that community. So last year we started talking about doing some kind of meeting center where we could, allow everybody. And then COVID hit. So we weren't, and I was high risk. My gallbladder was all messed up. I did so much damage to my body in using that. I was not. What was your drug of choice? I'm asking.
Methadone.
Okay, I did a little bit of Dilaudid myself, and I was never sick in addiction. I never had the flu. I didn't get the cold. The only time I was sick was physical withdrawals, but I was never like sick. Like, oh, I have a fever. Oh, I have this. That didn't happen. And everybody that talked about opioids, they say the same thing. Like, oh, I was never sick. But when you get sober, oh, it catches up. I got the flu a couple of times already, not COVID or anything, because I stayed inside because I was high risk and I didn't do anything. I had my gallbladder taken out last month. Right now I'm dealing with pancreatic attacks all the time, and I have to fast 16 on, 8 off to try to reset my pancreas, and that's straight from drinking and using. The gallbladder thing was a really rough situation. I told the doctors over and over, do not give me opioids. I cannot have them in my body. I'm allergic to them, basically. Pretend I'm allergic to them, please. And so they put me under and took my gallbladder out. I woke up and immediately I said, I'm high. Something's wrong. And they said, no. Like, and my wife's like, oh, it was the anesthesia. And then the doctor's like, well, we did have to. He looked uncomfortable, so we had to give him 2 shots of fentanyl and 1 with Dilaudid.
Oh, God.
I went, are you kidding me, Doc? Like, I'm high right now. I'm going to withdraw. He was like, JD, it was only 2 shots or 3 shots. You're not going to withdraw. I said, you don't know my body and what's going to happen. I now have 4 incisions in my stomach that you guys gave me that I need to be careful with, that my body is not going to like what you just did to me, because I definitely don't like it. They said, you're going to be fine. Just, calm down. You're going to be fine. I said, all right, you're the doctor. It was an outpatient surgery because it's gallbladder. Mm-hmm. We get to the parking lot. I immediately vomit. Immediately. As soon as the sun hits me, I start throwing up. We get home, we live 5 minutes from the hospital. I barely get up the stairs where I start throwing up again. I threw up consistently for 18 hours straight, withdrawing. I was in immediate withdrawals right away and vomiting. I almost ripped open one of my incisions. I had to bring a pillow to hold against my stomach while I was throwing up so I didn't rip open my incisions. All because the doctors didn't believe me that my body was going to reject any opioids they put in my system. And, but again, it's my fault. My body wouldn't have done that had it not had the experiences it had before.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to sue the hospital because guess what? I did that to myself. They just didn't believe me when I explicitly told them not to. So I've even just, as of yesterday, I saw it still wasn't on my chart that I'm in recovery. So I added it myself on my app for my chart because they haven't. I told them over and over I'm in recovery. Last 4th of July, I was in the hospital ER for all my problems because we didn't know it was my gallbladder. We thought it was a tumor, my adrenal gland. My blood pressure was skyrocketing. My heart rate was hitting 190 sometimes just watching TV, not doing anything. And so I had to go back to the ER a lot. And I was there 4th of July, and the ER doctor's like, all right, we're going to give you morphine for the pain and Xanax to take home with you. And morphine to take home. I said, the hell you are? I said, I can't take that home with me. I was like, I'm in recovery 2+ years at this point. And they were like, no, it's going to be fine because we're the ones giving it to you this time. I was like, what are you talking about? It was you guys giving it to me before. It doesn't matter who gives it to me. I'm the one that's abusing it. I don't know how to take medicine like a responsible adult. You give me one, I'm taking the bottle. When I would fill a script of 120, I would usually hand out 40 that I owed to people because they would spot me. And then those other 80, they would be gone in 4 or 5 days tops. And the doctor said, there's no way you were doing 30 milligram oxycodone in 4 days. I said, you know what? I was probably doing them in 3 days, and I was giving you the benefit of 4 or 5 days. But I was doing 3 or 4 an hour sometimes. Don't tell me what I did and didn't do, okay? Because I am a drug addict. I am an alcoholic. I cannot have this stuff. My body will reject them because of all the damage I did. And yet they still haven't added it to my chart. I had to add it myself. They still shot me filled with fentanyl. They still shot me with the Laudit. And, I understand doctors are going to be doctors and they're going to do what they think is best. They went to school for 8 years and they have a God complex. I get that. They're the cure all. And there are some great doctors out there, and then there's some really bad ones too. It's like most professions, and I'm not even going to get into that, but you know what I mean? There's a lot of professions out there that we see daily that there's a few good ones and a lot of bad eggs that make them look bad. And we have to depend on these people. Whether they're doctors or whether they're, servicing the community, in a car, it doesn't matter. We have to depend on the cops. We have to depend on the doctors. And unfortunately, we don't know who the good or bad ones are until it's too late.
I can say I have been very blessed in that area because, I left where I live. I live in Colorado Springs. I went across the street for rehab.
Oh.
Came back to Colorado Springs, after I was done. And anytime, when I was in my addiction, there were plenty of times that, because I was shooting up, I was making myself sick and having to go to the hospital, having to go to the ER where they would give me more. Well, now I deal with, some of those same doctors. I have nerve damage in my leg. And when it first started, I had to go to the ER. And I have dealt with some of the same doctors that I dealt with then.
Mm-hmm.
And so they knew me in my addiction, and now they know me sober. And
that's pretty cool.
I'm able to say, you know what, I've got this much clean time.
Yeah.
This is what I can have for pain relief. This is what I can't have. And they're very respectful of that. So I've been very blessed in that area. And I know it's not like that for everybody.
No,
so I feel very blessed that I have had doctors in that respect that have listened to what I have said and honored what I can and cannot do in my addiction and my recovery.
Yeah, I can definitely say that you are one of the ones that it's very rare that you actually go to rehab close home and you stay close. Like, not just you, but I mean, most people, when I met in rehab, barely any of them were from California. Say there was 20 of us there. I think 5 were from California. It's not like, and not even from LA either, and I forget, but yeah, I just take it now because you know what? It's like part of that punishment that we talked about earlier of like just punishing ourselves still. And I was just, you know what? They did it, but it is my fault at the end of the day. I'm the one that did this to myself. I'm the one that gave myself, those kind of reactions to drugs now, which is good. I'm now I know my body, how it is. If I was to ever want to get high again, I know what's going to happen to my body. I know I'm going to start throwing up right away. So, it makes it a lot. I mean, I haven't had a craving in, I don't know, 2+ years that I can even think of. And that craving was just a craving. It was a thought and it was fleeting and it went away in 15 minutes, just like they say, but again, I haven't had a thought about it because I feel like I'm so far away now that when I do use it, if I was, it's going to hurt me and not help me. And it's like, and right now it would be like hooking up with an ex. It's not going to come out well. Yeah. We're not going to get back together and not going to have a happy ending. So just do yourself both a favor and don't do it. Because I got sober in 2018 and it was April. By July is when they started pressing fentanyl into 30s. So I'd be dead right now because of fentanyl. I already know it. Like, I remember I was going to an AA meeting in West Hollywood every day. I only sought that one out because I heard that's the one Demi Lovato goes to. But as soon as I got to rehab, of course, I found out, by her song that she wasn't sober anymore. And then cut to that, I was in their AA meeting when everybody was finding out that she overdosed that day. And everybody was devastated because 2 days before that, another one of the regulars overdosed and died. And, she had those fentanyl-laced pills. Mac Miller, a month later, died from those fentanyl-laced pills. So and in my head, I'm like, you can't go back. Look what they're doing now. Mm-hmm. So that was like a big wake up for me too in sobriety, was like, if you wanted to go back, you're going to die. You don't have another run in you. Like, that's the run is the term, like when you're using it for a long time, for those who don't know. But yeah, I don't have another run in me. The person that I'm, sponsoring now, whatever you want to call it, he got sober at the same age as me, 31, from 15 years of meth. And he says the same thing. Like, I don't have another run in me. Like, I will die if I try to do this again.
Yeah. So, I think that's a common thread. I think that's a very common thread.
And I think it's an important thing to remind yourself. Like, hey, this isn't going to work out the way you think it is. And people need me now. My wife needs me. I have a stepson now, and they need me to be sober. And, that's important to me. And, helping others is important to me, though. I love the community in AA. Well, when they accept me. But that's why I started, my own thing where people can just come and we can talk and we can, sometimes we don't even talk about addiction. Sometimes we do war stories the entire time. Sometimes it's just solution-based stuff, like, how we deal with stuff today, because I'm not like, drugs were my solution to problems. So you take away drugs, I still have problems that I have to have solutions for. Because I just took away my other solution. And they weren't even solving problems. They were just pushing the problems down and masking them. But that's what I thought was the solution to all my problems, was to get drunk or get high about it. So when I got sober, I was like, all right, how do I learn how to be an adult now? Therapy is amazing. I can't recommend therapy enough. I had 2 amazing therapists when I was in rehab that actually I just texted both of them this morning just to give them updates. I like giving them random updates. I haven't talked to either of them in over a year, and I randomly was thinking about them this morning. So I texted both of them and just to say, hey, how you doing? And they both answered me excited, each of them. And, we got to talking a little bit, and it was awesome to talk to the people that saved my life. So, Yeah, I can't recommend therapy enough. And if you are into 12 steps, like 12 steps saved my life. My biggest thing is resentments. Resentments are like killer to me. Resenting people for not listening to me, you're resenting people for not respecting me. I had so many resentments when I got into the program, which I'm not even in the program anymore. Like I said, I do my own thing. But when I initially got into the program, I had so many resentments that I didn't even know about. I didn't know these were drivers in me using were resentments until I sat down and did them. And now every time I, catch a resentment is what we call that, get upset at somebody, I call it catch a resentment. I do my fourth step. And fourth step is where, what the resentment is, then you find your part in it. What it affected about you. Did it affect your money? Did it affect your pride, your ego? What? And what was your part in it? Because if you have a resentment against somebody, you have a part in it. There's something that you inherently did or do that made that person, say or do something that upset you. And once you find your part in any resentment, you then can accept it and move on a lot easier and let it go. So now I do a lot of them. Whenever I get upset, I do a fourth step on it. And I wouldn't be able to do a fourth step, but I didn't learn how to do a fourth step. I was never into prayer anymore. I grew up Catholic, and I didn't want to call God anymore in AA. So Bill Murray is my higher power, and I pray to him. And I don't do sign of the cross prayer. To me, prayer and meditation, I do that when I drive, honestly. Mm-hmm. I put my windows down all the way. I don't put on any music. And I talk out loud the things that I want, just like prayer is. And then I shut up and listen to my subconscious, and that's my meditation. That's giving the questions and then waiting for the answers to come in. And to me, that's my prayer and meditation, because I was never the person who's like, I'm going to sit at the edge of my bed and do the sign of the cross. That's not me. So, that's the way I do it instead. So that's why
you found something that works for you.
Yep, it works for me.
I think that's important. Well, JD, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming on and sharing your story. You guys, JD mentioned MJ's Progress, Not Perfection. The Facebook page is in the comments. It is also on the screen. If you are in his area, if you resonate with his story, reach out. Reach out. Because as recovered addicts, when we're in recovery, we've been where you are if you're using. We get it. Like, nobody else will get it, but we get it. So reach out, because I guarantee we are all here.
The biggest thing, I wasn't for religion anymore, and I didn't want to do this besides the Bill Murray thing. That was it down the line. And I heard somewhere that stuck with me that religions for people who are feared in hell, and spiritualities are ones who have been to hell and back. And that's what made me feel a lot better about going forward with Bill Murray as a higher power and doing all of that. So, anyone who's been in addiction has been to hell and back. And that's where that spirituality comes in my opinion.
Very true. Well, I do have one final question for you.
Sure.
What's been the best part of recovery? Number one best moment in recovery.
Best moment?
Yep.
Best moment in recovery would be the fact that let's see, there's been a lot of great, in 3 years, I remember my first victory in recovery, which was being able to go to the bathroom regularly again. That was cool. But my best thing in recovery is by far there's so many great ones. I'm trying to think of the best moment that I knew that this is because of recovery. And there's my dad saying he was proud of me. I don't remember ever hearing that.
I get it.
I think that was probably my best relief of a moment was, because I'm really close to my parents. And, I ran a company with my dad and brother up until January, when I asked them to let me go so I could concentrate on this instead. And they did. My dad let me go willingly, knowing that I was really passionate about this and really passionate about recovery and spreading the word and helping others. So he let me go. He literally he fired me so I could collect unemployment, like, and but when he said he was proud of me, that was my best moment that I can think of, because like that meant everything to me, because I'm the oldest and we have the same name. That's why I'm JD. I'm the fourth in my family. And, I've been vying for his approval, for so long. And then I messed it all up in my 20s for so long, and then now I can get it. And it's because of recovery.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much for coming on here, sharing your story. If you are watching this and you are dealing with addiction, there is help. You can go on Google. You can search AA. You can search NA. You can search a million different rehabs. There are rehabs that offer financial assistance to help get you help. You can reach out to myself.
You're me. I was talking to a girl from Texas till 2:00 in the morning last night that needed help. She was on a Facebook group and said, who deals with bipolar and who deals with being in recovery? And I said, I've experienced with both. And then she ended up saying, can I call you on Messenger? And we talked for about an hour. And I just let her vent. And, we talked, and she felt not alone for an hour. So, yeah, don't be shy. Like, just because you're not in the area, you can go to our page and you can DM us.
Exactly.
I'm gonna answer. Like, if you go to our page, it says replies very frequently fast, because within seconds I get the message and I'm replying as long as the phone's next to me.
Same here.
So yeah, don't be shy. Please reach out. Like, we're here to help, and we're here to make you feel not alone and no judgments, because I can't judge anybody.
Exactly. I'm right there.
And I can't wait for you to be on my show. You're going to be on my show soon. And my show is on YouTube and Spotify, and it's MJ's Progress Not Perfection podcast. And you can find it on Spotify and YouTube. The links are in my bio on the Facebook page. And I interview people in recovery from different addictions. Every week I post a new episode on Wednesdays. So a new episode popped up yesterday.
Well, I'm very excited to come on your show. You guys, if this has resonated with you, if this has touched your soul, if you want to see me continue to do things like that, I ask that you consider sponsoring this. You're becoming a listener sponsor to my podcast. Go to buymeacoffee.com/this fat girl life. Help keep me caffeinated. Every time you guys see me, I have coffee. It's survival juice. So buymeacoffee.com/this fat girl life. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye-bye.